ICE behaving badly? Say it isn't so. At this point, it might genuinely be easier to report on days when ICE isn't being a national embarrassment or wiping their massive, hairy fucking asses all over the Constitution. And this Tuesday is no different. Question: what's worse than dragging a screaming woman out of a car window? Answer: dragging a screaming disabled woman out of a car window. Watch this clip. It is unbelievable. If you have the slightest shred of empathy in your heart, it is going to make you mad.
Hey, go that way. Hey, back the fuck up.
Sidewalk, 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 sidewalk. You can fill on the sidewalk.
Force is not law. Force is not law. You are not following the law.
Her car is stopped, no weapon, trying to have a conversation with these officers, and one of them just fucking smashes the window for no reason. Zero reason.
Police before I'm disabled, so I can go to the doctor up there. That's why I didn't move.
See, now, to any of us, regular human beings, somebody saying I'm disabled to you whilst you're brutalizing them might actually give you pause. I mean, I guess this metaphor falls down because most of us regular human beings wouldn't be doing this. But let's say we somehow were. We had a moment of madness and we took the wrong pill and suddenly we find ourselves doing this to somebody. Them saying I'm disabled might make you be like, maybe this is a terrible fucking thing to be doing. Unfortunately, she's talking to Trump's ICE agents and they don't give a single shit.
Does this make you feel strong? Yeah, man! This is your duty! Why don't you help that woman? Help that woman! Why don't you help someone? All you do is hurt! All you do is hurt! She's trying to drive down this fucking bridge!
Again, I respect the protesters and the message they're trying to deliver, but these aren't people you can reason with. They don't give a shit. You can tell them what you're doing is illegal. They'll probably get slightly erect. Let's face it. These are terrible people.
Where is the law?
Pull up the way.
But the message here is clear. If you drive your car even slightly slowly around ICE, they can smash your window, cut the safety belt, the one thing a car needs to be legal to drive, destroy your property, and then drive away in it. God knows what's going to happen with that. To anybody with a heart and a soul and a brain, that clip is clearly disgusting and a sign that everything is wrong with Trump's ICE Stapo. But, don't let it be said that there is no karma in the universe. Listen to this. As this news is breaking, so equally is the news of a huge leak of ICE agent information that is making the rounds. We obviously can't condone doxing of anyone, but you do have to wonder, would this have happened if ICE wasn't currently taking a very impressive top 10 run at the biggest pieces of shit of all time Olympics? I'm going to show you some clips from an exclusive interview our friends at Really American got on this topic. Look at this.
I actually sat down with independent journalist Ken Klippenstein, who initially reported these leaks, and this is what he had to say.
What was interesting was, so they have that public messaging that I was just describing, where it's like, we make no apologies. Internally, they're much more split. People are worried about the public backlash. Immigration officers are being briefed on their legal authorities, reminded, hey, actually, people can protest you. People can even curse at you and be rude. That's actually legal.
Wow.
And as I understand it, they are going around, this is shown in the documents, looking for volunteers to go because they don't want to order people because they're worried that people are going to be opposed to it and not want not want to carry it out.
So many interesting factoids just said there. So just in case you missed them, let's go into them, because genuinely this stuff is blowing my mind. I think it's really powerful. That ICE, Trump, and his whole unit have been trying to present a very unified face in this operation, saying, this is what we want, this is the law, anyone opposed to it is domestic terrorists. We get the vibe that all ICE agents love this, that everyone's on board. It is refreshing, almost like a piece of sanity to hear that, no, behind the scenes, many ICE agents or people maybe higher up are like, this is kind of fucked up, and I don't know if we want to be involved in this. What's even more refreshing, relieving, slightly sanity restoring even, is also hearing that ICE agents are being told, hey, by the way, people can protest. So as much as you think law and order in America is crumbling and it's under attack, let's be clear, it is refreshing, if not miraculous, to hear that there are people behind the scenes being like, hey guys, here's the law, here's what isn't the law, let's try and stick to this, can we? These are small signs of resistance. There are still people pushing back. Even the leak itself is a sign of resistance. Presumably it was a DHS agent that leaked it. So as Raw Story reports, a Department of Homeland Security whistleblower, that's DHS, has released the identities of about 4,500 ICE and Border Patrol employees Tuesday, potentially called the largest agency data breach for the department. Yeah, no shit, that's a fucking biggie. Now, apparently the reason behind this leak was, somewhat unsurprisingly, the killing of 37-year-old unarmed woman and mother Renee Good. As it says here, the onslaught of national outrage reportedly led to the major leak. I mean, this is what happens. It's the fuck around, find out index in action. But Dominic Skinner, the person who created the ICE list, says it is a sign that people aren't happy within the US government. That's not, first time I read that, I read with the US government. No, within the US government. So again, it's a nice little dose of sanity to be reminded there are people in power who fucking hate this shit. We're not alone. Keep making our voices heard. The shooting of Good was a last straw for many people, Dominic Skinner told the Daily Beast. So as part of this new leak, 1,800 on-the-ground agents have been identified. An early analysis suggests that 80% of them are still employed by the agency. And get this, the activism isn't just limited to one person, one government agent leaking a list. People as a community are coming together to share this shit. Listen to this. So the guy who runs the ISIS said this: I've had hotel staff sending post-it notes, bar staff sending DHS IDs, loads of people saying their neighbor is an agent. People are being turned over, much like a different time of history I can think about. And responsibly, this guy is working to verify the names. But, as he says, this is a clear sign that this needs to change. ICE needs to change. The way they're going about stuff needs to change. The public sentiment is overwhelmingly against them.
And I don't want to give people the impression that this is like the overwhelming view of immigration officers, but it's definitely a sizable minority. And they don't have the same attitudes that you're seeing from the political leadership going on cable news and beating their chest essentially over all this. You're not seeing that from the rank and file, but they can't say that. I mean, they can't go public and say these things, or they'll run and follow the administration, or they fear that they will. So we kind of hear a picture of this that's not reflected by the rest of the institution, I guess. I think that there's this cynical notion, oh, protest, what does that do? When has that ever worked? Well, I talked to the immigration officers for the story, and they care about that. They might not agree with the protesters. I'm not saying that they're, lefty Democrats or anything.
Right.
But they look at it and they say, well, if the point of this was supposed to be, public safety, the public seems really angry about it, and it seems to be leading to these bad things happening, and everyone's upset. Maybe this isn't a very good idea. And that is a sentiment I've heard from several people. And again, a minority view, but a significant minority within the agency. And that's why they have to resort to just begging people to join ICE with these ridiculous memes and things that they're doing all the time.
See, this is what you sort of, you have to tell yourself and hope deep down. It's nice to hear it is true. We the people do have the power. Protest does work. I think there's a lot of discourse spread online that protest doesn't work. I think that's a mixture of cynicism and honestly potentially rogue agents, people trying to suppress protest, because protest does work. It reminds the few that the many are actually secretly in charge. We secretly do have the power. They just try and make us think that we don't. And he made a fantastic point about being able to speak to the morality of some of these people, even if they're not far left loonies, even if they might be Trump voters. They might still have a lot of people still have a tiny shred of humanity in them where they might be like, well, wait a second, we are supposed to be here for good reasons. We're supposed to be making the community safe. Everyone hates us and they're angry and they're getting violent. What's going on there? You can sort of see it in the eyes of this officer. I played this clip on another video, but check out this clip. That is a video of a guy who, and he's notorious for just before this clip having said, you know, I would have shot really good too. He's now been confronted by protesters asking him who he protects, who he serves. He's having an existential crisis. Like, oh, fuck, wait a second. You know, they got a point. The point is, even people that are obnoxious enough to say, yeah, I would have fucking shot her too, can be made to be like, wait a second, are we the bad guys?
I don't,
Hans, are we the baddies?
And that is a sentiment I've heard from several people. And again, a minority view, but a significant minority within the agency. And that's why they have to resort to just begging people to join ICE with these ridiculous memes and things that they're doing all the time. People don't, the federal government does, we know a lot about job satisfaction within ICE because the federal government polls employees. ICE consistently has ranked towards the near rock bottom of all the different federal agencies. So they're starting with a very weak hand.
And this goes into points I've made in other videos, and if you haven't seen this video, subscribe, that's on you. But the headline is, as depressing as a news cycle is, as bleak as this shit can all feel, at the end of the day, there are more good people than bad. The ratio, again, is not as high as it should be, but it's definitely more than not, or we wouldn't live in a society. Society wouldn't function. It is refreshing somewhat, you know, so as there are as many ICE agents who apparently get off on this shit and love beating, you know, helpless women and stuff like that, as there are, and one is too many, there are probably secretly more who are like, this is fucking, this job fucking sucks, man. I am depressed. Even if they're just keeping quiet, they, you know, it's like morale needs to be low. That's the start of how this shit changes, is people being like, you know what, this is fucking wrong.
Yeah, you look at the context of these slides that were kind of made to be like easy to digest, I think. Yeah. They focus on the backlash that they're facing. They're saying protesters, you know, using obscenities towards them, cursing, things like that. And it really gives you insight into like what it is that they're worried about and what it is that they're facing. And that was the most interesting part of reporting on this, was learning they actually care about that stuff and it bothers them. And they, you know, that the protests are making a difference. That's actually being perceived as meaningful opposition.
Isn't it somewhat amazing though that they actually have to tell these these fucking knuckle dragging idiots what the First Amendment is, considering these people are presumably, I bet, good money and become a billionaire. Presumably people who, you know, would be like, yeah, Trump, free speech, freedom of rights, you know, before any of this shit. They now have to be reminded what that shit actually means. Protected activity, speech or expression. They have to put speech or expression, as simply as that. They've had to tell these fucking goons that speech and expression is protected. It's only not protected when it's fighting words. Again, people who are smart or even just who are sort of vaguely dumb know these things. ICE officers do not. What is also protected? Non-compliance, peaceful protests, marches and rallies. They have to be told that protests are legal. This is where we're at now with Trump's people. They have to be told that leaflets are legal. Leaflets. Like, why did they have to say that specifically? Was there an ICE agent coming in like, this guy was wielding a stack of sharp paper. I could have got all mother of paper cuts. See, and what's also fascinating is if you've been following our coverage or seeing any clips online, and if you haven't been following our coverage, again, subscribe, you're missing out. But what is not a violation of 18 USC 111? This is the fucking law. These troglodytes cite every single time to do whatever they want. They can piss on your grave and say it's USC 111. But they've had to remind them what is not a violation is profanity or personal insults directed at officers. Yeah, cry harder, free speech. Rude gestures directed at officers. Yeah, cry harder, free speech. Arguing, challenging authority. This is a problem. They're having to be told having your authority challenged does not give you the right to do whatever the fuck you want. As in, we know you're high on power fucking morons. Talking back to officers during police contact. It is relieving to hear that there is, you know, a voice of sanity being like, guys, this is the fucking law. By the way, if anyone's interested, but the fact that we're at that point is also depressing. So yes, it's nice to report a little bit of good news with the bad. Obviously, the conduct of, you know, yanking that woman out of a car and destroying her property pretty much for no reason is terrible, but it is somewhat relieving, I suppose, to hear that there are actually people inside the agency fighting back, that the people are fighting back, that the protests are getting to them, the protests work, the morale is low, that many people inside the agency, even if they're a minority, a loud and concerned minority, don't like where this is going. These are good things to hear. They hopefully if people keep protesting, if noise keeps being made, incidents like the disgusting video, which I played first, in this whole presentation, just will stop happening. We have to believe that. And, just to also increase the good news before I leave you guys, here's a lovely, fun bit of slapstick comedy from earlier in the week.
Pussy! Fucking pussy! Fucking pussy! Yeah, fucking pussy!
My favorite thing about this clip is the fact that he walks and looks a bit like the chicken penguin from Wallace and Gromit. He's like, again, these are the people they're hiring, people who are so dumb they don't know simple facts like free speech or don't run on slippery surface. I'm British Chris, and this is Raw America.